I was 23 days away from graduating med school. 23 days, and in one single phone call, I lost $2.5 million that wasn't even mine yet. But here's the part that still keeps me up at night. I handed it to him willingly. My name is Rachel Calloway. I grew up in Naperville, Illinois, middle-class, honest family. The kind of household where you paid your bills on time and trusted people until they gave you a reason not to. That trust, it almost destroyed me. It started in September of my final year at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine. I was exhausted, stretched thin, surviving on 4 hours of sleep and cold brew coffee. Residency applications were due. My student loans were climbing past $310,000. I hadn't seen my mom in 6 weeks. And then he showed up, Dr. Marcus Webb. Wait, stay with me, because what he did next is something your bank will never warn you about. He wasn't some sketchy stranger sliding into my DMs. He was a guest lecturer, polished, confident. He drove a black Range Rover, wore a Patek Philippe watch, and talked about physician investment portfolios. Like he was doing us a favor just by being in the room. He told us the medical system was broken. The doctors graduated drowning in debt while hospital executives pocketed millions. He said he had a solution, a private investment group, exclusive to high-earning medical professionals, with average annual returns of 34%. 34%. I should have walked out right then, but I didn't, because my classmate Brianna, top of our cohort, sharpest person I knew, leaned over and whispered, "Rachel, I already signed up." My attending vouched for him, and that's exactly how traps work. They use the people you already trust. After the lecture, Marcus came up to me specifically. He'd done his homework. He knew my specialty track, oncology. He knew I'd applied to residency programs at Johns Hopkins and UCSF. He said, "Rachel, someone with your career trajectory can't afford to start $300K in the hole. Let me show you how my clients don't." He invited me to a private dinner in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood, a 400 a plate restaurant, 6 other doctors, everyone nodding, everyone impressed. I told myself I was just going to listen. I told myself I was being smart. 3 weeks later, I co-signed documentation that tied my name and my future earning projections to a $2.5 million physician asset trust. I didn't have $2.5 million, but Marcus assured me I would. What I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Marcus Webb didn't have a medical license. He didn't have an investment license either. And that dinner, every single person at that table had already been chosen. We weren't guests, we were targets. I co-signed a $2.5 million document. I was 23 days from graduation, and the man who handed me that pen didn't legally exist. Keep watching, because what happened next, even the FBI agent assigned to my case said he'd never seen anything like it. After that dinner in Gold Coast, Marcus moved fast. That's the thing nobody tells you about con artists. They don't give you time. Time is your enemy when you're being scammed. Because time means research. Time means doubt. Time means you call your father and he says, "Rachel, something doesn't sound right." Marcus knew that. So within 48 hours of that dinner, I had a DocuSign link, a 47-page trust agreement, and a personal call from Marcus telling me the enrollment window was closing Friday. Urgency, scarcity, authority, the 3 weapons he used like a surgeon. I remember sitting in my apartment in Evanston, laptop open, reading through pages I barely understood. Legal language stacked on top of financial language, stacked on top of medical terminology. It was designed to confuse, designed to make you feel stupid for questioning it. So I didn't question it. I signed, and the moment I hit submit, I felt proud of myself. That's the cruelest part of a sophisticated scam. They make you feel intelligent for falling into it. If you're thinking, "Rachel, how did nobody around you catch this?" Hold that thought, because I had 3 people in my corner who tried to warn me, and I ignored every single one of them. My roommate Dana, a law student at DePaul, asked to see the paperwork. I told her it was confidential. Marcus had specifically said the agreement contained proprietary financial structures, and sharing it could void my enrollment. Classic isolation tactic. I know that now. My academic advisor, Dr. Patricia Horn, emailed me twice asking who Marcus Webb was and how he'd gotten access to our lecture hall. I forwarded those emails to Marcus. I thought I was being transparent. I was handing him the blueprint of who to avoid. And my dad, Gary Calloway, a retired electrician from Naperville who never trusted anything he couldn't see with his own eyes, called me on a Tuesday night and said, "Baby, if something looks too clean, it's hiding something dirty." I told him he didn't understand high-level finance. I was a fool dressed in confidence. By November, Marcus had collected signed agreements from 11 of us. 11 medical students and 2 attending physicians across Chicago, Milwaukee, and Indianapolis, combined projected earnings used as collateral, north of $28 million. He never invested a single dollar. Instead, he used our signed agreements to approach actual financial institutions, private lenders, 2 boutique investment firms in downtown Chicago. He presented us our names, our degrees, our projected salaries, as verified clients in an established physician fund. He borrowed against our futures. Then on a Wednesday morning in the first week of December, Marcus Webb's phone went straight to voicemail. His website, gone. His LinkedIn, deleted. The Gold Coast restaurant confirmed they had no record of our reservation. He paid cash. Of course he paid cash. I called Brianna first. Her voice was already shaking before I said a word. Then I called Dana. She went silent for 4 full seconds and then said, "Rachel, you need to call the FBI right now. Not tomorrow. Right now." I sat on my kitchen floor in Evanston, Illinois, 23 days from becoming a doctor, and I sobbed like I was 12 years old. Because it wasn't just the money. It was the fact that I had trusted him more than I trusted the people who loved me. The FBI opened a case within 72 hours. Agent Donna Pieretti, 15 years in financial crimes, sat across from me in a federal building in downtown Eos, Chicago, and slid a photograph across the table. "Do you recognize this man?" she asked. I looked at the photo. Same face, same jawline, same eyes. But the name printed underneath wasn't Marcus Webb. It was someone else entirely. And beneath that name, 4 prior convictions across 3 different states. He had done this before, and we weren't his last targets. The man I called Marcus Webb had 4 prior convictions, 3 different states, and a completely different name. Stay with me until the end, because what the FBI uncovered, and what I did after, is something every person watching this needs to hear. His real name was Daniel Cortese, born in Trenton, New Jersey. No medical background, no finance degree, not even a college diploma. What he did have was a genius-level understanding of human psychology, specifically the psychology of high-achieving, debt-burdened, exhausted people who desperately wanted someone to hand them a ladder out of the hole they'd been climbing their whole lives. People exactly like me. Agent Pieretti laid it out in that federal building conference room, like she was reading a horror story she'd already memorized. Daniel Cortese, alias Marcus Webb, had run near-identical operations in Atlanta in 2019, targeting Emory Law graduates, then Denver in 2021, nursing program graduates at the University of Colorado. Each time a different name, different city, same playbook, same watch, same Range Rover, leased, always leased. He studied his victims before they ever saw his face. He researched graduation timelines, student loan databases that had been leaked on the dark web, professional licensing boards. He knew which programs produced the highest future earners. He knew exactly how much debt we were carrying. He knew our names before he walked into that lecture hall. That guest lecturer invitation, he forged it. Our department administrator had received a spoofed email from what looked like the dean's office. Nobody verified it because, why would they? It looked official. It had the Northwestern letterhead. It had the right signatures. 30 seconds of graphic design. That's all it took to get inside our lives. I need you to stop for a second and think about the last professional email you didn't double-check. Because Daniel Cortese built an entire empire on that one moment of trust. The federal investigation took 11 months. 11 months of phone calls with Agent Pieretti. 11 months of submitting documents, reconstructing timelines, identifying every dinner, every DocuSign, every conversation I could remember. 11 months of finishing my residency at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, while carrying the weight of a federal case on my back. My co-signers and I weren't criminally liable. The FBI confirmed we were victims, not participants. But the civil damage was real. 2 of the attending physicians faced licensing board reviews. One of them, Dr. Anita Sharma, a cardiologist from Indianapolis with 17 years of practice, had to hire a separate attorney just to protect her medical license. She hadn't done anything wrong, but her name was on the paper. And in this world, your name is everything. Daniel Cortese was arrested in March, caught in Scottsdale, Arizona, 3 weeks into what appeared to be the early stages of his next operation. Dental school graduates this time. He was sentenced to 19 years in federal prison. 19 years. And when the verdict was read, I didn't feel relief. I felt grief. Grief for the version of Rachel Calloway, who sat in that Gold Coast restaurant and thought she was finally getting ahead. Grief for every high-achieving, exhausted, debt-crushed young professional who just wants one person to say, "I see how hard you've worked. Let me help." That vulnerability isn't weakness, but predators treat it like an open door. Here's what I know now that I wish someone had told me then. Legitimate investment opportunities do not have closing windows on Friday. Real financial advisors want you to have an attorney review documents. Anyone who isolates you from the people who love you, whether it's a scammer, a cult, or a toxic relationship, is not protecting you. They are protecting themselves from being caught. When my dad said, if something looks too clean, it's hiding something dirty, he wasn't being unsophisticated. He was being a man who had lived long enough to know that real opportunities don't need to rush you. I graduated from Northwestern, Feinberg School of Medicine, on a cold December morning in Chicago. My dad was in the third row. He cried before my name was even called. And when I walked across that stage, federal case still open, loans still climbing, name still attached to a document I never should have signed, I made myself a promise that I would talk about this, loudly, for as long as it took. Because Daniel Cortese picked doctors on purpose. He picked us because we were trained to trust expertise. Because we spent a decade being told to listen to the person at the front of the room. He weaponized our education against us. If you are a student, a graduate, a professional drowning in debt and dreaming of a way out, please send this to someone you love. Not because it's a good story, because it's a true one. And somewhere right now, in a nice restaurant, in a rented Range Rover, with a forged invitation and a stolen name, there is another Daniel Cortese, and he has already chosen his next table.